thankful we are for our clients and just not only for making the trip out to Boise, but for the partnership and collaboration that you show us every day. This is what drives us to continuously get better and to help you make your lives easier and help protect your brands online.
Yeah, and I just want to echo his comments there because it's the clients for us as services and operations teams that really make what we do rewarding. And we know that Boise isn't on the way to anywhere. That's probably why we still love it. But really do appreciate you guys making the effort to be here today.
Okay, so Troy and I are going to be here the rest of the day and tomorrow if you want to come chat with us or throw axes. But now I'd like to welcome to the stage our MarkMonitor president, Chris Viator. He's going to share a few words before we get started on our first presentation. Thanks.
Great, thanks Troy and Stu. Good morning everybody, welcome. I made a comment at dinner last night that Boise is not easy to get to, but when you do, it is so worth it. You all agree that it's just a beautiful city. Also, Stu and Troy talked about MarkMonitor being very focused on continuous improvement. How many folks were at our forum last year in San Francisco? So it was in a very beautiful building. It was an old theater, but it was dark, and there were recliner seats. And by the afternoon of the second day, there were quite a few people who were enjoying those recliner seats. So we decided to change it up, go with this beautiful venue, lots of light. I hope you guys will enjoy that throughout the 2 days. So let me make sure I figure this out. This is a special forum for us. It's our 20th anniversary. And I know there are a lot of brands in the room who are much older than that. But for a tech company, that's a pretty big milestone. So to be not only just around 20 years, but to continue to innovate and to continue to lead the industry is something that we're very proud of. So you can see the timeline here. I'm not going to go into in detail. You'll hear from other presenters about the innovation that MarkMonitor has introduced over the years and continues to introduce, but we're very proud of that. I wanted to just take a few moments and let's think back about the amount of change that's happened in these 20 years. And it's really quite phenomenal. So one change for sure is e-commerce. So 20 years ago really wasn't much of a factor in terms of how you brands were thinking about engaging with your customers. It's a $3 trillion market today, and it's growing at 20% year on year. So huge opportunities with e-commerce. The other is just the number of digital channels. The way that you engage with your customers continues to grow. So remember how easy it was 20 years ago? You would make a website, you would go secure the domain, and you would just start interacting with your customers. Think about what it's like today. It's not just one website. It's often thousands of websites. It's large, complex domain portfolios. And it's not just the websites anymore. It's hundreds of e-commerce marketplaces. It's mobile apps. It's social media. Speaking of social media, what that has now created is user-generated content. So this is content that's being generated not by you, not by your company. It's not being vetted by marketing or legal. It's being created by consumers and your customers and just people throughout the globe, frankly. And it's staggering the volume that's being created. So if you think about social media and Facebook, and you've got Snapchat. So I did a little research. The number of images that get uploaded every minute on Snapchat is 2.1 million images. So by the time I'm done speaking, that's 25 million images that will be uploaded. YouTube, and I have to keep fact-checking myself on this because it's astounding. The number of videos that are viewed every single day on YouTube, 5 billion with a B. And again, I keep thinking that can't be right, but then I go and look at it, and it is right. So why is this important? many of those images and those videos and those posts on social media have information about your brands. So it's increasingly critical because, again, this is user-generated content that we're able to monitor and ultimately make sure that there's no brand infringement that's happening through that user-generated content. So it's pretty staggering, the opportunities that have been created over these 20 years about how we engage with customers, but there's a lot of perils out there as well. So the one that absolutely continues to blow my mind is around phishing. And there are a staggering 80,000 victims every day from phishing attacks. So they're either giving away personal information or they're suffering some kind of economic harm. 80,000 every day. It works because they're getting increasingly sophisticated. It's not just that Nigerian prince that wants to work with us to somehow repatriate some fortunes. So on the e-commerce side, $460 billion revenues lost every year on e-commerce. So great opportunity, also a great challenge. And let's put a pin in that number because I want to come back to that. The same thing's happening on the content side. $100 billion a year is lost to essentially piracy on the content side. So over those 20 years, huge opportunities of how we engage with customers, how we can drive revenue and sales, but also huge changes in the amount and the sophistication of the threats that come along with it. Oops, sorry. So what I'd like to do is just to do a little bit of a pivot. Talked about the past. The past is the past. It's been really amazing to see what's happened. I want to talk a little bit about the future and what brand protection can look like in the future. And I want to share with you some specific examples of how we're working with customers around some forward-thinking new strategies on brand protections. And again, navigating those opportunities, dealing with those threats. So before I jump into it, a quick question, show of hands. How many people think about brand protection as a never-ending game of whack-a-mole? Show of hands? Okay, well that's actually encouraging because the last time I asked that question, everyone put both hands up. And it's just the notion is, okay, we knock one down, two more pop up, when is this gonna end? And what I'd like to suggest, there is a different way of thinking about this. And we've been working with a lot of customers to essentially change the strategy and sort of turn it on its head and to say, let's not just focus exclusively on the bad guys and go and find them wherever they are and just knock them down, play that whack-a-mole, hit one after the other without any regard to where that bad guy was out in the online space, really without any regard to what impact they were having on your business and your customers. And the point is to say, let's focus less on those bad guys. I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but let's focus more on the good guys. So who are the good guys? Well, it's our customers. And they are good guys. The research will show that the vast majority of them, over 90%, have no intention of buying fake products. They want to buy your products. They want to pay you. But yet, a third of them have been duped and have ended up buying a counterfeit product. So the strategy here is to say, okay, if these well-intentioned consumers want to buy my product, let's really understand where they are they shopping, how are they shopping? Because if we can understand that, we can put a perimeter around where those good guys, those well-intentioned consumers are, and we get really, really good, get really focused at making that area squeaky clean. And the really cool thing that happens is you go from that game of whack-a-mole of just, indiscriminately trying to knock all these out to actually creating a monetization opportunity. If you go back to that $460 billion lost every year, if you can convert 10%, 20, 30% of that from going to counterfeiters into genuine product and augmented sales for your company, that's a really good thing. So we're working with a number of companies, happy to talk to you more about really what that looks like in practice and how our technology supports this strategy. The second forward-thinking strategy I'd like to share is around really getting more sophisticated data and analytics. So it is absolutely table stakes, it's the price of poker to have a great program for monitoring and enforcing across all those digital channels, but we've got to be putting more data into those programs so that they can be more strategic. So it's data about telling us, where are the biggest threats? Where are the hot spots? How is that changing? What are the industry benchmarks? And so how am I comparing? How am I doing? And also, it's probably the holy grail is those predictive analytics or finding correlates. Meaning, can we take, through the analysis, be able to say, when we see X happening, it usually portends Y. And what that allows us to do is to be much more proactive, and rather than just waiting and taking down counterfeits or bad actors, get to it before it even happens. And so having that data and analytics is not just useful for your online strategies, but we've seen it be very useful for the offline strategies as well. So it can feed into your product and pricing strategies. It can feed into your partner and distribution strategies. And it's also really, really helpful supporting your regulatory, your policy, and your interactions with law enforcement. So if you haven't really thought about how data and analytics can help with this brand protection opportunity, we would encourage to do that, and happy to speak with you about that. So the last strategy I think is a really fundamental one. I talk about it a lot wherever I go, and it's about understanding that even though all of us individually have our own programs that we're executing, trying to get the best outcomes for our company, that really, in reality, it's about an ecosystem. And so there are dozens, hundreds of different organizations that all need to come together to make that online experience a safe experience and a productive experience. And so, well, who is that ecosystem? Well, it starts with everybody in this room, all of the brands. It starts with the e-commerce marketplaces, all of those social media players. It's law enforcement. It's industry trade associations. It's organizations like the IP Rights Center. It's government bodies. It's universities. All of these organizations have to come together because no one of them can do it alone. And so MarkMonitor can help. So we've spent that last 20 years really finding ways to connect the ecosystem. And those connections are sometimes technical connections, so APIs between one organization and another. Sometimes it's about data, and we're sharing data across the ecosystem so better decisions can be made. And sometimes it's just about good old-fashioned relationships, where we have taken the time to go out and identify the right people across all of those organizations so that we can help connect any of you to any of them to help solve a problem. And as I look out across the audience here, there's a lot of folks who are in completely different industries. There are folks who are direct competitors, but we all share one goal in common, which is to make that online experience as safe and productive as possible. So those are my ideas about some next generation thinking about brand protection going forward. So thank you. So before I go, you haven't gotten rid of me yet, I would like to just take a moment to recognize one of the MarkMonitor just key luminaries. So I talked about the 20 years and how proud of what we've done over the 20 years. A lot of that would not have been possible with one of our colleagues that is here today, who unfortunately is retiring at the end of this year, going to New Zealand. And so I couldn't pass up on the opportunity to thank him, embarrass him a little bit. So Charlie Abrahams, can you join me? You might want to take a seat for this.
Oh, God. It's a roast.
So, as I said, Charlie has been with Mark Monitor just leading the way, and I think has probably met or known you for many, many years. And in all seriousness, it's a few months now, but I miss him already. Charlie's been an industry giant in this space. So again, I'd like to just take a moment, and we'll play a little video montage of Charlie at his finest.
What can I say, Chris?
Thanks, Charlie.
Let me say a couple of words.
Yeah, please.
Hey, that was just astonishing, and I'm going to kill Chrissy afterwards. Some of those pictures, Jesus Christ, where did those come from? But this has been a fantastic ride. I've been very fortunate in my career. I've only worked for 6 companies, and several of them have been great. In fact, I ran into somebody today, Larry, who worked for one of the great companies I worked for before. But without doubt, this has been the greatest. And I thank all of you, clients, people, co-workers. It's just been a fantastic time. Thank you so much. And I'm sure our paths will cross in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Champion sleeper, really.